You ready?
I'm ready.
Oh, man, you're always ready.
I'm ready.
Greetings, everybody. Welcome back to the Jason Damico Show. It's Jason Damico here. And as always, we have a very, very special guest for you. This guy I've had the honor of playing with multiple times on stage, backing him up on drums, playing guitar as well in certain occasions when I get dragged on stage in front of hundreds of people just randomly because I happen to be there, and that's always a good time. But we're looking at, I mean, the list is here. I'm going to have it in the description box for you below. Just for example, New York Blues Hall of Fame inductee as Master Blues Artist. That pretty much says it all. There's multiple awards here. 2016 Blues Music Awards nominee for Best New Artist Recording for Feel These Blues, which came out in 2015. Great record. 2015 Blues Blast nominee, Blues Soul Blues album, Feel These Blues. List goes on and on. The man, the myth, the legend himself, the soul working man. Ladies and gentlemen, I give to you Mr. Slam Allen.
Here I am.
In the flesh.
In the flesh.
It's so good to have you cross table. And first and foremost, I have to thank you for all of the great memories thus far that we've had when I was on tour for that week or two in Florida and that weekend up in Maine playing drums with you and Jeff. Hilarious.
Yeah, that's what life is about, man. Living, loving, and laughing, and and trying to be a success,
Good times.
Good times.
Good times. And with you, it's always a good time.
Yeah.
So I sincerely thank you.
It is my pleasure, man.
Well, let's just get into it. Let's get into beginning stages. A lot of folks probably know your history with James Cotton, and that was kind of midway in your career. I want to go even further back to like the beginning stages with your dad, playing drums, actually string bass, like classical bass early on. Was that kind of a good place to start?
Yes, I did that in high school. I got into the high school orchestra, and I couldn't, get with the wind instruments. I was a string man, so they had a spot, for the string bass, and I said, you know what, that's what I want to do. So I got on it and learned classical music and learned how to read, bass clef and all that kind of stuff, and took it from there.
So drums started then before guitar?
Well, how the drum situation happened, I never intended to be a drummer. I showed up one day at my dad and my uncle's gig, and the drummer didn't show up. So I said, I'll do it. And that's how it happened,
Yeah.
I really didn't have any training or anything like that, but I just, been around the music for so long and stuff, I felt like I could do it. And, I wasn't great at it, but, in time, I learned some things because my dad and my uncles, they gave me a heck of a training. If I was on the drums and I made one mistake, they'd give me the stink eye.
Oh, boy.
I remember the stink eye, and they never gave me, they never said what the song was. They just had a cadence.
It's kind of like what you did with me.
Right.
And Jeff's giving me like,
that's there you go.
1, 2, and 3.
1, 2, 3.
Close hat, semi-open hat, ride.
That's it, man.
And that's all you got.
That's all you got, man. Yeah, it was kind of good for me.
Trial by fire.
True indeed.
Yeah. Well, now I know where that comes from.
Well, it taught me. It taught me how to read
Instincts.
people. Instincts. You develop another sense. You know what I mean? Later on, when I was back in with James Cotton, I could tell what he was going to do
before he was going to do it.
Before he was going to do it.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? Because I feel like a lot of musicians, they get stuck with trying to play things right. And for years, that was what my whole egocentric brain was trying to do. And then once it gets to a threshold point where you forget about that, you let go, and you start really connecting with the audience, and then these things just kind of like take care of themselves,
right,
or they're better. I don't know if you would agree with that, but you are one of the best entertainers that I've ever had the privilege of watching and playing with, and I'd love to get your insight on that.
Well, first of all, we're gonna go back to the blues.
Let's do it.
The blues, where it all started. When blues started, it wasn't started in a classroom. Blues was started from feeling. Blues was started from people who were basically living hard times, showing their feelings and emotions, and out of that, created the blues. So time and feeling is something that, people of this day and time, if you learn it in school, whatever, you learn correct time. You learn how to do stuff in the proper formulas, because that's what they have to teach you. But, for me, the way I learned in real time from real people without, a formula. I had to take that, absorb it, and interpret it, and put it back out to people so they would understand it.
Did you have any influences particularly that helped with that process? Not just guitar playing, but really connecting.
Well,
who were they?
Well, my dad and my uncles. I wanted to be like them.
Yeah.
Especially, my dad, because, he played guitar, drums, bass. He played a lot of instrument stuff, and, and I always hung around him. I always wanted to be like him. So, through him, I was introduced to, different genres of music, different people, different situations and stuff, and I kind of, absorbed it. I absorbed all of it, and I internalized it and said, you know what, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And it kind of went back and forth, because when you're a kid, you want to be a kid. You want to do the kid things and stuff, but I was a little different. While everybody was outside playing and stuff, I was in there on the guitar. I was trying to learn. I wanted to be something. I wanted to have something to make people smile. And my dad, like I say, my dad and my uncles were, very much a big influence on me being who I am today.
So guitar and singing and all of that, was it more, I guess it was just more by ear then, instead of sight reading like you were with bass? Any particular records that come to mind as far as just sitting there in the room and chugging away?
Well, for me, my ear was one of my biggest teachers. I couldn't, for some reason, after I, got out of high school and stuff, I couldn't really discipline myself to learn, music, like reading notes and learning theory and all that kind of stuff. I just didn't get it. But I was able, to turn on the radio, and listen and hear stuff, and then interpret it into my way. I never could play it exactly like it was,
right,
but I would always interpret it on the way I heard it and the way I felt it. And, over the years, I became, really good at this, because, when if you learn the blues, you can put that anywhere. That's like the, the main ingredient of all music, I should say, of all American music, I should say. And, and that's what I did. I learned the formula. People think that 1-4-5, is easy by theory. But it is very difficult to make people feel those three, chords, that 1-4-5. A lot of people can learn it just like this, but to make somebody feel it, and for me, that's all I went by is feel.
Yeah.
Even to this day, if you put some music in front of me, some sheet music in front of me, I couldn't handle it, But if you put on a record and I hear it, and I'm still, I'm going back because I'm still saying records, I could pick it up and I can use what I learned from the blues and stuff and work out the song.
Some of the looks that you do, they definitely transcend and go beyond just like the traditional blues genre. little bit of jazz in there. I know that you've talked about Benson as being one of your guys. How did that come about? As far as just break, because you'll do some chromatic stuff and it's just killer. It's jazzy.
It's jazzy, yes.
But it's still in the context of the song.
Right.
You go out and you come back, and it perks the ear up.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, I was a big George Benson fan. You know, I wanted to be George Benson at one time. You know, I have a cousin, you know, early off we had like a, kid band. And one of the things that he turned me on and he liked was jazz. You know, and especially George Benson. And I found out later on in life that George Benson wanted to be a blues man. And he said it was too difficult for him. I was like, what? Yeah. Yeah,
man.
He loves the blues,
what
man.
What in the world?
And I started listening to him and the way he was phrasing and stuff. And a lot of his phrasing comes from the blues.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and then I listened, you know, to my playing and stuff. I was like, oh my gosh. I said I thought that I was combining blues and jazz together. You know, and I thought I was like one of the few that was doing that, but George Benson was doing that for years. You know, that was his style. And I said, man. I said, man. Yeah, so it's definitely by feel. You know, I've been for years adding phrases on to my solos, and they come at the, you know, I could just be sitting around just, you know, noodling on the guitar, and all of a sudden I come up with another phrase, and I have a catalog up here of phrases that I can, you know, put in, take out, add, whatever. And if I hear something, I could add that in. You know, chop it up and whatever. You know, it's a never-ending process.
Never ends.
It never ends. Never ends.
James Cotton comes around, and what an opportunity, right? I mean, you were with him for about a decade. Just elaborate on that, if you could, for a couple of minutes. Any highlights, any stories that come to mind?
Well, how that came about, it was around, I believe, 2001, when, they had the big 9/11 thing that happened. You know, at that time, you know, I was in a state where I wanted to do something different. I wanted to go somewhere different. I wanted to know if I could go somewhere where nobody really knows me, and could I make something happen? And that, you know, at that time, you know, a friend of mine who was a drummer who lived in Chicago, he said, man, come to Chicago, man. You should come to Chicago. And I was like, yeah, maybe. Then finally, finally after, you know, when that happened, I said, you know what? I got to try something else different. So I went to Chicago, and a friend of mine, you know, he gave me a place to stay. And when I got out there, it was dead. I mean, there was, you know, people weren't in the clubs. You know, people were kind of, you know, scared to go out to clubs and stuff. And I said, oh, my gosh, what I'm going to do? So I was there for a little bit, you know, and I must say the people and the musicians and stuff there welcomed me with open arms. I must say, they really welcomed me, and I still have longtime friends out there now that keep telling me to come back. But James Cotton came to town, and because I had built up this network of friends and stuff, you know, one person talked to another person, and I got the call to come and, basically audition for the James Cotton Blues Band, because he just needed a band, you know, for that weekend. You know, I went to the rehearsal, and I guess James Cotton liked what I was doing, you know, what I was putting on his stuff. And we went to, I can remember, we went from Chicago to Thunder Bay, Canada. And that was a trip. I thought we was going to never get there.
Jeez.
Yeah. And
it was like us when we were stuck in South Carolina that night.
Exactly.
Oh, my God.
That was
that detour. Oh, that was just...
life on the road. Yeah. And because of my training with my my dad and my uncles, it enabled me to feel James Cotton.
Right.
You know, and he liked what he heard, and Next thing you know, I was with him for almost 10 years.
Wow.
It was really a blessing. I was at the right place at the right time that really just changed my life.
Were you guys on the road like 3/4 of the time during the year, each year, somewhere around there?
Well, we wasn't on the road a whole lot, but throughout the year, we had like patches of shows,
right?
And during those shows, that's where I really learned, about the business. It was a different level. Mm-hmm. Me just watching and observing how, James Cotton, did his business with people, and how the shows were set up. It's on a whole different level. And I took a lot from it, to where I learned so much, by being with James Cotton, to now I could, actually teach other people about the business. Well,
I remember that one conversation that you and I had going to, I think Jeff was sleeping in the back.
Yeah.
I was up front with you,
yeah.
and we were going to Maine.
Yes.
And you just started talking for like an hour. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I said really anything for like 45 minutes or an hour, because there's just like such saturated knowledge on the industry. And I couldn't really tell you now, years later, specifically what you said, but mm-hmm. whatever you said, it got in my DNA and in mm-hmm. my being, and I know it definitely changed me, mm-hmm. and became part of me.
Right.
So I thank you for that. But I'm sure that some of that wisdom came from those days with James.
Yeah, you got to humble yourself.
Yeah.
You humble yourself to listen and learn. And today, too many times, too many artists, they want to be the big shot, or they want everybody to look at me, look at me, look at me. But sometimes, you got to be very simple. Shut up and learn. And that's what I did. I observed, I knew what my purpose was when I was with James Cotton. My purpose was to make him look good. So I had to learn the mechanics of how to do that.
Yeah.
So I really studied of how to be a support to a person, but also be powerful within myself, to have people say, hey, that guy is good. He's good for James Cotton, but he got something too.
Right.
He's got something too.
Right.
And that's, and I always kept that mentality and said, when you look at the marquee, it says James Cotton. And that's what I went into it. I said, my job is to make this man look the best. And he kind of understood that too, that's what I was doing. And he, he really, gave me a lot of respect for that. And I appreciate that respect that I got from him, and, the knowledge that I learned. Some stuff good, some stuff not so good. But hey, you gotta learn it all. You gotta
learn what not to do.
Yeah, you gotta learn what not to do. And I want to say, anybody knows that this business is not always the best. You got to deal with situations and people and things. You got to have tough skin. And sometimes you can't take it personal. It's business. If you look at that word, it's the music business. And if you can't handle business and don't know the business, and don't have, the right temperament or whatever, don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Well, speaking about the business, I've got entertainer versus bluesman / R&B. In other words, you classify yourself as an entertainer first.
Yes.
And you've done that for years. Mm-hmm. Still think you're a killer musician and one of the best in the world, me personally. But the entertainment is definitely in your DNA. And when I hear something like, when I was a teenager, I was practicing guitar to make people smile, that's the proof.
Right.
Could you just talk a little bit about that? Your thoughts on it?
Yes, I early off, in my life, I would study people, like, the Rat Pack,
Yeah.
I always like Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., and I really like the way that they commanded attention from the audience. And when they stepped on that stage, you knew that you was about to feel greatness. And I said for myself, I'm here to entertain the people. So I got to learn what it is to entertain people, what makes people move, what makes them feel good. And it goes farther than just playing the guitar, just, singing, that's all part of it. But, when you walk in a room, if you can make a rapport with people, if you can make people feel that, you are something in somebody before they know you something in somebody, that speaks volumes. I always say a musician will make money, but an entertainer will always get paid. And I said that's the kind of level that I want to be on. And people, when they see me perform, they know right off that I am the real deal. Not because I'm around here going, I want you to know that I'm the real deal. No, it's because what I put out. I don't have to say nothing. I don't have to say anything. When you see me on stage and you feel what I'm doing, you feel like, I know this guy.
Yeah.
I know, you feel like I'm
Yeah.
I know this guy. And that comes from just, knowing people, living life, having a conversation. I see some musicians on stage is like, the next song, I'm like, man, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on,
what
man.
are we doing here?
What are we doing here?
Yeah.
So I set out to be entertaining. So when people see me, they say, I want to see this guy again. Every show is different because I read the crowd when I get on that stage and I say, hey, I know what I have to do.
Constant.
It's constant, And I'm gonna tell you straight up, every show is not perfect. But for the people don't know.
Right.
For me, I'm like, oh, gosh, I could have did this better. I could have said this. I could have did whatever like that. But whatever you do on stage, people see it at least, I would say, 25% more. So even you think you're having a bad day, the people are like, oh, man, you're great. And I always go like, I'm always going,
Well, no, I mean, because I'm always going,
yeah.
Once in a while, though, it's like, that was pretty cool.
Right.
But then nobody, recognizes that stuff, which to me, I don't.
Yeah, we always critical of ourselves because we know ourselves.
Yeah.
We see ourselves every day, but other people don't.
Right.
So me, I'm always trying to top myself. I'm always trying to top myself on every show. Sometimes I do, sometimes it's, but the people be like, and as long as they keep going.
The ladies.
The ladies.
That's,
that's a whole nother topic.
That's a whole other topic,
whole nother
man.
topic.
It cracked me up. The one gal, we were at that one venue in Liberty a few months back, and she wanted free CDs. Mm-hmm. You gave them to her in front of everybody. I thought that was a nice gesture, She wanted them.
She wanted them. She wanted
So was it after James Cotton then that Norwegian cruise came up as an opportunity?
It was kind of in the middle of it.
Okay.
That opportunity and how that happened. These situations just seem to come to me. I was playing a club in New York City. And the manager at the club had a friend who was a booking agent for cruise lines.
Right.
And he just came up to me. He said, what do you think about playing a cruise line? And I said, okay. And that was basically it. It wasn't no long, drawn-out story. He said, would you think about doing that? So I said, okay. But I didn't know exactly what I was getting into. I never done it before. I never even been on a cruise ship before. And it became a really, really, good thing for me, because the cruise line You know, it was the first cruise line to ever have a full-time blues club on it. And I was like the first person to ever do that. You know, and I went on, and I didn't know what to expect. You know, I became a huge success. You know, they made me the house band on there. And my fan base, man, people were coming from all over the world to be on this cruise ship. You know, especially all over the United States and stuff. And I didn't really realize how many people that I reached.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, we were playing in Florida, right? We did those venues all over the peninsula. And I think we were in Daytona, or where it was like more further south. There were at least 400 or 500 people there. And there were dozens that knew you from the cruise days. I was like, this is just crazy, man.
It surely is. Even to this day, man, people still come and say, hey, you remember me? I go, yeah, from the cruise ship.
What was that like? You guys were out there for what, like months at a time? Or
when I first started, it was 6 months at a time. It was 6 months, but I must say that, you know, that really also changed my life because it gave me a platform to practice my craft.
Every day?
Yeah, I was playing 6 nights a week.
Yeah.
And, you know, with the same band, you know, and, you know, people come on a Sunday and then they get off on a Sunday. So you had to entertain them, you know, at least 6 days, you know, without them getting bored.
Right.
And whatever, you know, and I always packed the room. You know, sometimes we would go through a week without me playing the same song again. You know, and the only reason why I would play the same song is because somebody, you know, asked me to play it again.
Right.
So
oh man, a lot of songs.
It was a lot of songs.
Because what were you guys doing? Like 2 or 3 hours each night?
Basically, yes.
Okay.
Yes. You know, it's probably it was like a 4-hour time slot, but we took 2 half-hour breaks in between.
Wow.
And you know, and it was so entertaining for me that, you know, the time just went like this. You know, time was so quick. You know, as soon as you get started, it's like you're finishing. And what would happen, you know, entertainers from all around the ship would come to the club and sit in with me. You know, I became like the hub for just feeling good and, you know, and having a good time. And it was a really nice thing. I met a lot of great friends from a lot of different walks of life, different countries, and, you know, it was definitely a beautiful, beautiful time for me.
You ever have any, like, nail-biting moments out there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you know, me, there was a lot of situations, man, that I could, that are funny, that are not so funny. But, you know, I can remember me being on the ship and standing on stage. You know, when you're on the ship rocks back and forth sometimes, and it could shift at any time. And I was standing close to the edge of the stage. The ship shifted. I fell flat on my face. And the thing about it, people thought it was part of the show. I'll never forget that, you know. And, I got up, and there, you know, people were laughing and whatever, but you know, that's what I did, you know. I always had people in laughter and feeling good and stuff like that. So it seemed like it was part of the show, but it was very fortunate that I didn't have my guitar in my hand.
I was gonna say,
yeah, because that would have been broken.
Yeah,
that would have been broken, and that's just one of the things.
What about like weather? I mean, you guys.
There was a couple of times where the weather got funny. The ship started rocking.
Woo.
Yeah, it started rocking. Well, I can remember the last night that I was on the ship. You know, there was a storm.
A little farewell.
It was a little farewell.
Yeah.
It was bad, man, because my cabin basically was on the lower part of the ship, so my cabin was actually going underwater. You know, and they came down. They actually came to my cabin and they battened down the hatches. Literally. They battened down. I said, when I saw that, I was like, uh-oh. You know, something's about to happen. I mean, everything in my cabin was tossed around, and I was going, oh, my gosh. I said, if I get off of this, that's it. And I haven't been back since.
How many 6-month legs did you do?
Well, I did a couple 6 months, and then I told them that that's too long for me.
Right.
So they cut it down to 4 months.
Okay, that's still a long time.
That's still a long time. Man. But it goes.
They wowed you.
Was that?
They wowed you.
Yeah, they were.
They wowed you.
Man, I could still be doing it, man. And I said, I had enough of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, you literally had ups and downs. Literally, yeah.
So touring on land, right? Mm-hmm. Which you've still been doing and still plan to do, knowing you. Yeah, like just Feel These Blues came out a few years ago. Great record, and you've been supporting that. Like, what future plans as far as just keeping this train rolling?
Well, in these days and times, you always have to keep yourself relevant. You always have to reinvent yourself. Because, the way time works now, days are hours, hours are minutes, minutes are seconds, and seconds don't exist. So time is always moving. You're looking across the table now at me, and you look back again, and I'm like 10 years older. So you always have to keep up with technology. You always got to keep up with patterns of the industry, what's going on. And for me, I've made myself a product that can always be around. Because when you go into the status of an entertainer, you can always, reinvent yourself. You can always stay relevant to what's going on at whatever is at that time. And for me now, we're at a stage now where music has went so far, technology, sound, and whatever, to where, people who were involved in the technology and all that kind of stuff are older. So they're going back now to what really started it, and the road leads back to me, So, no matter how far it goes, it's always going to lead back to the real source, to the main source, and it just starts all over again.
Cyclical, yeah.
So, I'm looking to not only, be a touring, artist, but I'm looking to have a business within the business.
Right.
So, I'm creating my own situations, doing my own shows and stuff. I'm sort of like becoming almost like an event planner.
Producer almost.
Best producer.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm doing, stuff like that. And then I want to educate people about the business.
Right.
I want to breed entertainers. This bottle of water is a bottle of water. And anybody who sees water, they see what it looks like. But, you never know how it is until you taste it. You never know. Water is water, but you never know how it is until you taste it. And right now, I'm getting people to realize that I'm not just a bottle of water. I have a different taste, a different flavor, and I could show other people that. I can show other people what that flavor is, because a lot of times if you don't make yourself relevant, you will be lost. There's just so much going on. I mean, every 15 minutes, while we sitting here, there's probably about 10 bands that started or more. A lot of these people, they think that, okay, I can buy some instruments, I can learn some songs, and we're a band now. And it's much more, and this has been happening over and over and over again to now you're just saturated with so many bands. So many bands. Some are okay, and some of them are just, come on, man. Come on, man. So, I'm here, I'm building a multi-level company that is going to, do what I originally started to do, is preserve an American art form, which is the blues. And the blues, had a lot of babies. It goes all the way from, blues, soul, R&B, funk, rock and roll, country, heavy metal, and even hip hop.
Yeah.
You know, and for me, I'm not a person to be one dimensional. I like it all. If it sounds good to me and it's good music, I'm all right with it.
Yeah.
You got some people who are want to be pure with the music and say, "Oh, I just want to hear this, the old timey blues and this, that, and other like that." Hey, that only goes so far. You know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff out here, and I want to just bring good music to good people, and that's it, and that's what I'm striving for.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it's no real formula. I'm writing the formula as I go. Because, things are not like they were 10 years ago.
Even then, the formula was still, but
right.
Now it's like flatlined.
That's right.
There is no real right way.
Right. You're absolutely right.
The only thing you can do is just keep moving forward.
You got to keep moving forward.
That's the guy in his mid-20s talking.
Right.
But,
I was so against, stuff like social media. Because I'm from the old school.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I don't want to do all that stuff, these videos and all that kind of stuff. But, when you think about the reality of it, it is something that, you could get your material or you can get whatever you're doing out across the world, like in minutes. It's a platform that, I didn't have early off, because I go back to the days when I was trying to learn a song. I had to, you know what I mean? Now, modern technology, you got all these MP3 players, digital, whatever it is, Streaming. You got machines now that slows the stuff down for you.
Half speed on
Half
YouTube.
Speed and all
quarter
that
speed. It's like
exactly. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, technology and everything, can be a big help, to do what you need to do.
Pretty amazing though how the blues has still stayed alive.
It's something that
Despite.
yes, I believe it's going to be around forever.
What do you any predictions for the next 5 to 10 years as far as like organic music? Me personally, I think it's alive and well. I think it's going to even take more of a stride.
Well, if you think of a candle, even the best candle you could get, the biggest candle you're going to get eventually is going to burn out. So everything that's happening now, the styles and all that kind of stuff, eventually it's going to burn out. If people like myself, like yourself, if we don't keep, reinventing and keep on, doing what we're doing and bringing it to what is happening now, then it's going to be lost. It's going to be lost. And right now in the blues world, we lost a lot of great people who made the music great, who will never be again.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's my job, because I learned from the masters. I feel like it's my job to keep this, like I said, this art form alive so that younger generations and stuff can actually see somebody live performing this music. And people think, oh my gosh, I'm going to listen to the blues. There's going to be some old dude sitting on the porch crying about his trials and tribulations of life, But in some cases it's like that. But, it's not what people imagine in their mind. It's much more to it.
Yeah.
It's like for me, you got to come see what I'm doing with it. To understand, way I interpret it and way that I'm representing it and stuff, So if you want to keep live music alive, come on out and keep it alive. That's what we need to do, And I would hope that the younger people would latch on to this theory, and keep it alive, keep it moving, keep it relevant, long after I'm gone. So I'm here to do what's in my DNA, make people happy.
So I got a couple more questions for you.
All right.
And then in the middle of them, I've got a fun little thing that I do. It's really basic. We'll get to that in a second. But well, let's go with two angles. I want to talk about very briefly just your thoughts on the lows in life when they hit, and just this is just a tough business, tough business, and faith, and kind of just how those two entities live within yourself personally and your sphere of who you are and what you're doing, and what really keeps you going when it gets really tough at times, because it does for everybody.
Yes. First and foremost, I'm a human being. I go through all the emotions that everybody else go through. I do the same things that, everybody do. I wake up, I take a shower, I have to do laundry, whatever. I'm human. So, when we do, like I go on tour and do stuff, you're on a big high.
Yeah.
You're a big high. And then you come back home and it's like, I got to do laundry. It puts people in a depression. I mean, people who are legends, who are established people and stuff, they all go through this. And some people, they can't handle it. They can't handle it, so they turn to different things in order to take away the pain. That may be drinking, that may be drugs, that may be whatever. But for me, I go through low times and stuff too, but the thing that I really depend on, and the thing that really keeps me going first and foremost is the man up above. A lot of times people don't realize that, he doesn't leave us, we leave him. He's always a source, to say, hey, man, because sometimes I sit around and I go, oh, man, I don't have any gigs or this or whatever, and then opportunity comes my way. It comes my way. And when I activate myself to do things, it seems like the man up above will walk with you and help you do them, 100 times better. So what I say, the people, this industry, as you said, it's a rough industry it can be, but it's like anything else you try to do. If you try to start a business, if you try to have a relationship, yeah, we know about that. Anything else, it takes energy, it takes faith, it takes, you just understanding that, you are a human being. You're going to have highs, you're going to have lows, but if you believe that things will get better, they will. I always said that, even if I didn't have music, I'll still be me. And music is something that I use as a vehicle to make people happy. But, even if I didn't have it, I would still be me. And that's what, people need to understand and realize that, you have to be you. And whatever comes from the music is a gift. It's a gift. And it, just last week I was feeling down. I was feeling down, and I just felt like, I'm beating my head against the wall. Things are not happening. I don't know if I'm gonna have gigs next week or next month or next year. I don't know what's gonna happen. And guess what? The one that was making me feel this way was me. You know, your actions dictate your success. So if you tell yourself negative, then that's what you're going to manifest, negativity. And sure enough, you know, I was taking myself down a slope that had ice on it. You know, and then I said, you know what am I doing?
Yeah.
And as soon as I started breathing that positivity, as soon as I started saying, hey, I gotta put myself in this and make it happen, it starts to happen. You know, this why I'm here today.
Yeah.
You know, this wasn't in my forecast, but when I started thinking positive, it came my way.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, so
wow.
Yeah, people, you know, be a person first. You know, be a strong person first. You know, this industry is here. You know, it's not a nice industry all the time, but like I say, with anything, you know, be a strong person and go into it strong. Go into it whatever you believe in. You know, if you believe in there's a higher power or whatever positive source you believe in, you know, manifest it. Manifest it. Tomorrow's not promised to us. You know, tomorrow's not promised to us. So do the best you can today.
That's just fantastic. I have nothing to add to that. We're going to go to the shootout, which is it's just like a popcorn answer. So I'll say I've got like 10 words.
Okay.
And they're all relevant to what you do. Mm-hmm. Just rattle off like a phrase or a sentence that comes to mind. No judgmental. There's nothing judgmental about it. Whatever you think of, you know.
Okay.
Guitar. Trains.
Yeah.
I don't know if they can hear that, but
extension of love for me.
Yeah. Vocal.
Sometimes good, sometimes not.
Blues.
Where it all started.
Yeah. R&B.
It's the baby of the blues.
Rock.
Another baby that came along.
Yeah. Drums.
Something that,
Bass.
It's the bottom.
Yeah.
Heartbeat.
I think it's Jeff.
Yeah, there you go.
He'll get a crack up out of this. We got to have him on.
Yeah,
he's got some killer stories.
Oh boy.
Stage.
There's a platform, you know, make people happy.
Lights.
I ain't too great with them.
Just what, from looking at them, or?
Well, if you got lights on stage and they're in your face, you can't see the people.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's tough.
These are pretty bright. These like I just looked at that for a second and I can't see your face now.
Yeah,
just seeing like the squares with the.
Yeah, if they're on the side, it's great, but when they're right at you, coming in your face,
killer. Crowd.
Yeah, love to be around crowds. The more, the merrier for me.
Amp.
That's a never-ending struggle.
Yeah, yeah.
Never-ending.
And one last little add-on here, which hopefully spawns a little bit of a tangent. Polo Tropica.
Ooh. Boy, oh boy.
Oh, man, that was like...
Man, if we had that Star Trek thing where I can beam myself there right now, we would be
Let's just
gone.
go.
Let's just go. Let's just go.
I think we ate there like 3 times in a 12-hour period. I think it was like breakfast, lunch, and dinner was all Polo Tropica.
Oh, yes.
When we got there before sound check, then like before the gig, after load-in, and then like at 2 in the morning.
Exactly.
Before we went back to the hotel. That place is insane.
Yeah, love that place.
So one last question that I ask everybody. if you could go back in time to your 15-year-old self, knowing what you know now, what would you tell him?
Well, with the knowledge I have now, and I could go back to being 15 years old, I would be a multimillionaire right now, for what I know. But that's a real tough thing to really say, because it's like, going back to 15 was a different time. I had no worries. I had no worries. I had no really real cares. People were different.
The world was different.
Yeah, people were different. There was more.
Not that I know, because I wasn't here, but based on what you know what I mean. It was a time where the music hadn't really changed to what it is today. There's people now writing songs and doing songs and music that has no instruments. Right.
Back then, you could go and touch the real people who made the music great. Back then there was people who, would come out and just sustain live music, because that's what, was people did. Now it's like, it's whatever, it's not from me just remembering from the days of me growing up and, being 15 years old. Man, if I had that knowledge that I had today, man, I tell you, man, I would probably be halfway ruling the world. Or I would tell people, don't go there, don't go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to be real about what's happening now. Back then people were really more, loving and giving and not too much judgmental and stuff. All these things, was around, but it wasn't as prominent as it is now.
Interesting, because I hear the opposite sometimes from people. Actually, more often I hear the opposite, like, oh, it's a more accepting culture, blah, blah, blah.
No, it's from me being back then to now, you get so much stuff shoved down your throat now.
Yeah.
And so fast. It's
information overload.
With information overload,
Yeah.
Some like some artists and stuff have like 15 minutes of fame. You're hot with your one record, and then next thing you know, or it's probably like one song that is good on it, and it goes to the top, and then next thing you know, it's like, who was that?
Right.
That's how fast stuff is happening now.
No legacy.
No legacy and stuff. And back in the day, entertainers really entertain. You had to get out there. You had to wear them cheap suits and dance and sing and perform, because that was the standard. Now you got people who got, they want to get on stage and they got what do you call them? People who teach them to dance and
choreographers.
Yeah. And just make you a product.
It's a product.
You're a product.
Yeah.
Back then, man, people were really entertainers, and that's what I learned from. Seeing these people live and seeing them sweat and seeing them really just work it, man.
Yeah.
Just working, and you felt that.
Yeah.
You felt like they wasn't a product with all the lights and stuff like that. You knew they were great. You knew who, they were entertainers and stuff, but it's not like it is today. Today is like a circus. It's like you go to a, it's like they breeding people. So when they see somebody like me, they may call me a relic or they may call me whatever.
Right.
But one thing they're going to always know, I'm the truth.
Damn straight.
And that's what I'm going to maintain.
Well, it's been an honor having you. Thanks for making the drive down.
And I want to say, I thank you for doing this, because situations like this keep people like me relevant. If things like this don't happen, then I will be the one people are gonna like, who? So you're a young man who has the vision, who knows what's happening. and like I say, it takes people like yourself and whatever, to keep people like me, relevant, and you we're going to take it to another dimension. You're going to bring it to another arena, and that's what's needed today. That's what's needed today.
Well, thank you. That's good encouragement. I just got to, you guys are handing me the torch, and I'm just trying to hold it without burning myself.
That's it. Yeah, run with it, man, and start some good fires.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks again.
It's my absolute pleasure being here.
Any last words beyond what you just said, which was fantastic?
Hey, all I can say is, man, keep breathing the truth and keep putting it out there for real, and we'll all be all right.
Yeah. Well, you heard it. Nothing really to add there. Check the description box below for links to Slam's website and music and really cool things going on there. There's a lot of YouTube content that's fantastic, and you gotta see this guy live. I'm telling you, it's probably the best blues show, or even show period, that you'll see in your lifetime. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you next time. Peace.